All right, so today we're going to cover different order types, order book building, which is if when an order comes in, right, how does the exchange keep track of it? How does it match trades? We're going to talk about the NASDAQ ouch-itch protocol, which is NASDAQ's own proprietary binary protocol for talking to the exchange and to and from the exchange. And then the exchange stack, so what it looks like on the text side at a very, very high overview, what the exchange looks like. Actually, what I love about CME is that they actually post roughly what their architecture looks like on their website. So if you look at their website, they have like a wiki page and it talks about anything you would want about the exchange. It even has things about the financial derivatives part, right? So like what is a spread, right? We don't talk about that, but it's very ubiquitous in trading, right? They even have like stuff like that. So it's like, well, technically not about the exchange, it's a bit adjacent to it though. So it's a pretty good website. Although it looks a bit old, once you get used to it, I think it's actually very helpful. There's a treasure trove of information there. And CME is the largest commodities exchange in the world, I believe, by a huge margin. They get a lot of volume and they get a lot of trades, right? So they actually know how to develop that infrastructure. They know what they're doing. And NASDAQ is the other one as well, right? So it's NASDAQ and CME. Although CME has its own problems, but we'll talk about that. I actually have a special bonus couple slides at the very end of the slides here called advanced topics. It's pretty cool, but we'll get into the main part of it first. All right, so note, I'm not a finance major, blah, 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 superior audit. Yes, dare to know. Order types. So we're going to be covering 3: market, limit, and self-short. So here's some vocabulary that I need you guys to know first, right? A bid and an ask is basically someone making an offer to buy or sell a certain security or certain thing, right? So when you're bidding for something, you guys are all trying to buy for something, right? When you're asking, they're asking like, hey, how much does it cost, so to speak, right? Then that's you're asking for a certain amount. Sorry, is what I meant. Not asking for a certain amount, right? You're asking for I need $100 for Apple, right? How much are you asking for? I'm asking for $100, right? So that's selling. That's how you think of it. Bid and ask. Just remember, bid is on the bottom, ask is on the top. And that basically pertains to how the order book is laid out. It's laid out like bottom is a lower dollar amount. The higher you go, the higher the dollar amount, right? So bids are always going to be lower than the asks, right? Or the same, right? It doesn't really make sense for it to be bids higher and then asks lower, right? Then you guys would actually trade. Doesn't make sense. So yeah. Anyways, BBO stands for best bid and offer. So if right now the person who's buying, right? So of all the people who are buying, the highest amount is the best bid, right? Does that make sense? Why? Because out of all the people, right? And if you were, let's say you were trying to sell, right? You want to sell high, so you want to sell to the highest guy who wants to buy your stock, right? Then the highest buy is your best bid. And then on the other side, your best offer. Offer is just another word for ask. Some people exchange those, right? How much are you offering this for, right? How much are you asking for this? So offer is the other way. It's the lowest offer is your best offer, okay? Order is just an order, right? An order is basically each order. I think the next slide may be helpful differentiating between order and lots, right? An order is basically something that comes in. It is a trade that comes in, and trade can be for X amount of shares or something, right? That X is what lots are. Lots is the number of the underlying that you are trying to buy or sell, right? Ticker means basically like AAPL, right? Apple, that's a ticker. MSFT, right? Microsoft, that's a ticker. It's just like a 3 or 4 letter acronym. Not really acronym, just like a abbreviation or something. It's a symbol, I should say, a symbol representing the underlying. So for example, SPY is the S&P futures, right? It's I think traded on CME. And then the CZZ22 is actually corn futures for December 2022, right? So from month corn futures. I think it's November, right? Yeah. All right, fill trades. Well, not it would be next month, not front month. But anyways, fill and trade. So if I can match a buyer and a seller, then I can fill both their orders and they execute a trade. So fill and trade is roughly the same in that aspect, but it's slightly different in that I fill an order, right? And two people would trade against each other. Does that make sense? So only when two people agree to exchange whatever does a trade happen. And then a trade happens and you send like a message to say, hey, I filled like your order partially or fully, right? All right, and then these last two are bonuses. Order matching engine, we'll go over what that is. Basically, that's the computer where all the orders are, or all the trades are executed, okay? So when a trade comes in, it basically says, it keeps track of it, and then if it matches against a BBO or better, right, then it'll say, hey, these two people traded against each other, send out a message, right? So that's what the OME does. It's just a computer that does that. And then PFOF, payment for order flow. I put this vocabulary in here because I mentioned it one time, I think in some other slide, but payment for order flow is when your broker basically routes it to another like broker dealer that will then internalize the order. You guys can probably search that up. And what that means is, for example, if Citadel, right, Citadel's a market maker, Robinhood would route orders through Citadel, and Citadel can say, hey, you have blah, 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 blah shares, and you trade against Citadel directly, right? So it internalizes that order, and then the Citadel can either later or right after that go to the exchange and actually trade with other market participants. Does that make sense? So it internalizes it within the broker. And there's a fee. So Citadel pays a fee to Robinhood for this service, and you guys can actually check how much Robinhood makes off this. It's like I think every year is like 10 million-ish they make just off of PFOF. So yeah. So here's the anatomy of an order. This is what we're going to be using. There may be other ones that I don't remember, but here's what we're going to be using today. So again, first one, limit, that talks about the type of order. So we have market order, limit order today. There's also other ones, but we're not going to go over them. Buy or sell, right? That's basically, bid or ask. Quantity, lots, ticker is your symbol, right? And then the price at which you want to execute on, okay? Another name for price on the order book is what we call price level, okay? So price level is basically, you may have a lot of people who are willing to trade on 90-21, right? That's one price level, so to speak, right? Different. So this is one order for 100 lots, right, of Apple. Okay, so order types. The first one is market order. Market order, we buy and sell it at the current price, okay? So if you're lazy and you're a trader and you want to, you don't know, what the price is going to be like 30 seconds from now, you might want to say, hey, I'm just going to place a market order. I just want my shares of Apple. I don't care what they execute at, as long as it's the best ask, or sorry, the best offer, right? So then your broker would just place a market order that would instantly trade against the best offer. Does that make sense? So it would you would automatically just get those shares. But the problem with this, right, is that it's highly susceptible to big market movements, right? So say at the middle of the day, for some reason, I don't remember how they did it, the Fed does something and it changes one of your stocks or something, and you place a market order and then it jumps. Now you're buying something that's way more expensive because it jumped up, right? Same thing with earnings, right? I guess if you don't mark your order as only for day, then the next trading day, right, when that earnings report comes out after market and the stock jumps or falls, right, you may be trading at a significantly different price. We're talking about maybe a couple dollars difference, but that's like percentages, right? We're talking about like 5% difference, right? So it's near instant fill time. Most people use this because it's the easiest. Like if you just want your shares now, you're just getting shares. But if it's for like an illiquid stock and like you're trying to get in on the hype or something, right? Yeah, it could be really bad. You could pay like maybe like tens of percents higher than what you initially thought when you pressed the button it would be, right? So just be careful. you should basically never use market orders. Definitely not in actual trading scenario, right? You would use something on a limit order instead. So a limit order is a order to buy or sell a security at some price or better. Okay, so it basically is a threshold. So okay, let's dissect limit buy 100 Apple, right? So you're gonna buy 100 apples on the limit buy at $90. That means that you will only get filled at 90 or lower. Okay, so if someone's willing to sell you at 88, you actually trade at 88. Okay, if someone's trading at, if someone has the best offers at 91, right, you won't trade. You'll just rest on the order book, right? So now let's look at the sell side, right? Limit sell 100 Apple, $100. If no one is willing to buy Apple for more than, the best bid is, let's say, like 101, right? Then you'll actually trade and sell Apple at 101. So as you can tell, limit orders are the best because they're guaranteed to get an at or better execution price. Again, right? So let's say you put a limit order for a share of Apple, 100 shares of Apple at $1 million each, right? You'd be trading against the best, or what you're trying to buy. So you'd be trading against the best offer, not at $1 million. Does that make sense? Because it basically finds who can you trade against as a threshold. It uses the $1 million as a threshold, and maybe the best offer is at $100. You would trade at $100, and you would buy shares of Apple at $100, even though you said you were willing to buy Apple at $1 million. Does it make sense? So limit orders are good, and also I don't mention this, but they're actually good for aggressors and not people who are passive on the order book. So what that means is, if you notice, right, if you put a trade and it doesn't execute, it's now a passive trade, right, because it didn't get executed, and it rests on the order book, then and someone trades against you with a wildly bad like limit price. So for example, let's say you're willing to buy Apple at $100, right? But you didn't get traded, and then someone comes in and is actually willing to sell Apple at $80. But since you were already on the order book, you would only trade for $100. You would technically lose out on $20, right? Because you didn't know that someone else would be willing to pay $20 lower. Does that maybe make sense what I'm saying? Right? So that makes limit orders like very good for the aggressor, and it's just like regular for the passive, right? So yeah. The cons for this is it's not instant, right? It requires either a order to be at that price level or lower, so to speak. And if not, then you just rest on the order book and you can get aggressed upon, right? Aggression, I guess I should define that real quick, is when someone executes against your passive trade. That's how you get aggressed upon, okay? A passive trade is an order that you send into the exchange that does not get executed. Does it make sense? And then yeah, bad thing about also, you want to make sure you cancel by end of day, right? Just in case, like if like some jump or something like that, right? You don't want to keep that there. So usually a lot of people send cancel messages. So good to day or something, good to, I forgot what the name is for that, but yeah, okay. I honestly really am not sure when you're not supposed to use limit orders. They're basically better, I guess. Yeah, and market orders are bad. There was actually like a flash crash or something, and people like piled into market orders, and they actually got really bad, like fill because spread widening and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll go over that later. All right. Any questions so far for the market and limit orders and like aggression? Okay. Cool. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Order types, limit order, or sorry, okay. Right now we're going to talk about short selling real quick because you know, it's actually a very interesting way of leveraging. There's a lot of strategies that a lot of interesting strategies that use it, and it's been getting a lot of press in the past 2 years because of short squeezing and all that stuff. So shorting is basically you borrow a security and then you sell it at some price, right? It would probably most usually it's the current market price, right? Why is that good? Well, if let's say, okay, scenario here, right? I borrow your Xbox. You your friend, I say, hey, can I play on your Xbox? But I need to take it home. and borrow it for the weekend. You're like, sure. And I borrow your Xbox and I break it or something, right? And then I'm like, oh no, and I go out and buy a new one, right? You can't really tell the difference, so to speak, right? Especially maybe like it's a stock Xbox that you just got. You can't tell the difference, right? The same Xbox. Now, instead of breaking it, let's say I sold it, right? And then I bought it again, right? Because I sold it and then give it back to you at the end of the weekend. You wouldn't know that I actually did buy or sell that, right? You wouldn't care because at the end of the day, you still got your stuff back, right? So what it allows me to do is that, you know, for example, if I can sell that Xbox at a higher price and then buy it back at a lower price, I make a profit by literally investing, so to speak, nothing, right? I did not, like for a stock, right? You would actually have to buy shares of a stock, wait for it to go up, right? Hold the position and then sell it. Whereas for short selling, it's literally just, I start out with nothing. I borrow your shares, I sell them straight out to the market and buy it back at a lower price later on, right? Technically costs nothing. So it's easily leverageable and technically offers liquidity to the market in a sense where more shares flood into the market, right? Because they're selling that. However, it does require margin count. So remember, like I said, it doesn't cost anything. Well, that's actually really not true. Basically, banks know that you could up really bad. So let's say, for example, the shares go to infinity, right? Then you will never be able to buy back those shares to cover, really, which is to say to get rid of your short position. And that's because, you know, let's say you buy Apple shares at $100 and it goes to $1 million, right? Are you really going to pay $1 million for Apple after having sold it for $100? You're literally losing out on, like, you know, whatever that $1 million minus $100 is, right? That's a lot of money, right? So what they do is they require a margin account, and that margin account is basically you keep like basically a security deposit at the bank is, I think, the best way to think about it. Sorry. And if the stock goes up, then the bank or whatever broker you have will correspondingly ask for higher and higher margin. And that's in the case where if it does go up too much and you can't like put in more margin, they'll close your position because it literally, like, you will just straight up just lose a lot of cash. And also the broker at the end of the day is on the hook for dealing with that, right? So if you can't fill your position, then the broker's on the hook. And if the broker can't, then they basically die, right? They just lose out on money because they need to close that position, right? There are ways of like throwing the football down, but I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, anyways, and theoretically infinite losses, like I mentioned, right? So one thing I want to mention here is there is this uptick rule, and yeah, introduced in 1934, removed in 07, reinstated back in 2010, probably roughly maybe around or after the flash crash there. I actually don't know, I'm not sure. And basically, maybe with market-wide circuit breakers as well. And then, so basically what it says is your short sell, you can only sell at a higher price than the last trade, right? So it prevents this downward spiral and selling pressure where, like, let's say a bunch of people are trying to short the stock, right? They flood the market. And because there's more supply than demand, right? The price goes down, and then people want to short even more, and then it keeps going, and the stock basically just gets tanked to zero, right? That's bad for the stock market, right? You don't want basically people to speculate on a stock falling, right? You want the stock market is about investing into your economy. It's not really for people to gamble on the you know, your company, right? That's really bad. So that's why they have this. And then also they allow short selling. So you might ask, you know, hey Ben, you know, then why do we want short selling? It's good for hedging. I mean, you can use it as a way to hedge, right? So people use it to hedge, like call options or something, probably. Not something like that. All right. Any questions about the previous thing? All right, cool. Again, raise your hands. All right, so we're gonna go into building the order book, and we're gonna go through a scenario where we are buying and trading shares of Apple. Okay, so here's what our order book looks like. Our order book is, this is a level 2 like order book. It only has price, orders, and lots. At this price level is only a depth of 4. So what that means is there's 8 total, just divided by 2, roughly 4. So I'm just assuming the bid and the ask will be at 98 and 99 respectively, right? So this is what an order book looks like, right? Lowest price on the bottom, highest price on the top. We have a tick size of 1 tick size is basically the difference between each price level. The exchange is in charge of discretizing it. So for example, you may get tick size of $1 if you're trading something over $1,000, right? Otherwise, it's probably around 1 cent. Okay. And this is different from what it used to be. It used to be like fractions of a dollar. That's how they did it. And then they changed it to decimalization. That was the entire thing. But we're not going to go into that. It's not too important for what we're doing. But orders, remember, orders is a message that comes in for a certain trade, and the trade size is the lot. Okay, that's a lot size. All right, so let's go with our first example. This is Apple, right? We're trading Apple. First order comes in, right? We open the exchange, right, for trading. All right, we order number A. We got a limit buy for 100 Apple at $98. Okay, so again, limit buy. So it's a bid on the bid side. We got 1 order. And we got it for 100 lots, right? So we got bid here at 98 for 1 order for 100 lots. Okay, this is for market participant A. We actually saved this, but you don't see it because I didn't want to draw it out that market participant A actually, has that. But I put it up there so you guys can sort of remember. And we'll do it in order, so you'll see. Okay. And then so now we have a second limit buy here for B, 50 shares, 1 order, 99. So we have a new best bid. So if you guys see now that the quote with the bid, or sorry, the parentheses with the bid actually shows the best bid, right? So both of these are bids, okay? But 99 is the best bid because it's the highest one, right? That's what, if you were to sell Apple, you would want to trade against the best bid, right? And then it's 50 shares for 1 order. Cool? All right, for market participant B. All right, here we have our first sell order, right? C, sell. It's a limit sell for 20, so we got 20 lots, 1 order for market participant C at 101. So now that one automatically becomes a best ask, right? It's a best offer. If you notice here, none of these trades have traded, right? One, we haven't sent out any system messages, which you'll see later on. But the second one really is that they rest on the order book. This is what it means to rest on the order book. It means that you don't trade and we just keep it on the order book like that and we keep track of it, okay? All right, now here's our first trade. We got market participant D coming in with selling 20 shares of Apple at a way lower price, $99, right? And basically, it does trade against someone. Specifically, it trades against market participant B, right? And right now, because market participant B had a higher lot, right? Then there's still some left over. So what we do is we send out a system message where we fill order D. So D doesn't even rest on the order book, right? It actually aggresses on B. That's how we talk about this. D aggresses on B, and B gets a partial full order for 20 Apple at 99, right? So here, both the limit buy and the limit sell are the same, but later on we'll have an example where they're not the same. You guys can sort of see. So again, D aggresses on B, partial fill on B for 20. All right, and then here now we have a really big order. We got a limit sell for 200 Apple, so big selling pressure at $96. Someone's really doesn't like Apple, okay? Trying to sell for $96, and note that 200 is more than all of the bids combined, right? All the leftover bids combined, and even without the leftovers from before, right? So what happens is it first trades against that 99 price level, okay? We got 1 order there at 30, right? So first trades against that. We get a partial fill on B, which is the person who was resting on the order book, and then the aggressor E, we get a partial fill for 30 at 99, right? So note that the order gets filled at 99, not 96. So even though E is willing to sell at 96, they actually get $3 more for their shares. All right, for each share actually. That's what I mean by aggressing and why limit orders are better for the aggressor. Okay, for B it doesn't matter, right? Because B only gets it at that same price. Does that make sense? Oh, sorry. And then so we get like what 200 minus, so 170 shares left over, and we trade against the 98 price level, which was market participant A. It's only 1 order at 100, so we're left with 70. So first we send out the system messages. A, we filled the entire order at once, 100 Apple at 98. E gets partially filled for 100 at 98, right? And you can see there 90 is still greater than 96, right? So E is actually winning out on this deal, so to speak, by wiping out the bid side, even though they're willing to sell at 96. And then whatever's left over just rests on the order book here, right? So we got 70 left over, we got one order, and it's the best ask, right? We don't have a best bid anymore. One, there's no bids, and two, if there's any bid that's higher than 96 or at 96, it would execute against that. Otherwise, it would just rest on the order book lower. Okay. All right, and then we have a limit sell for 10 Apple on 96, right? So it just now we have two orders on that price level. Oh, sorry, I think it should be sell 20, not I calculated it wrong. Oh, sorry. But yeah, just pretend it's limit sell for 20 Apple at 96, right? Now we have two orders for a total of 90 lots, right? So when you're trading, you really only care about this. HFT people also try to care about this, but it's a little bit harder because you need to do some investigative work, right? So here are some questions that I want you guys to think about. Anyone want to answer the first one? Why would a buy order for 199? Oh, what would a buy order for 199 look like given this current order book? So 99 is there. Yeah. So what would it look like? It would basically have best bid at 99, 110, right? You guys agree? Because it executes against this one, and then we'll have two system messages, we have three system messages, a partial fill on E, a full fill on F, which was the last trade, and then a partial fill on the new order, right? You guys get that? Okay. And then second question, why in this simple example, okay, do we not need to record which exact orders are buy and sell? So if you note here, right, I don't actually show you guys if that one is also an ask, or if these two are both asks, or maybe one is an ask, one is a bid. Why don't we care? Someone give a shot. Take a shot. Take a guess. Maybe there's another example that's better. Right. In this example, why do I only label two of the orders as bid and ask? Why don't I label this the 97 one as a bid? What's the thinking behind there? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, exactly, right? So like if it was an ask, it would have already gotten filled at that price level, right? It would fill against the 99 or whatever it was trading before, right? So to speak. So basically, you can think of bids and asks as a wall, right? It's literally like a separation. And the best bid and best offer is that layer of separation there. But this is for simple. In actual market scenario, that may not happen. There are some like small like cases where it doesn't, but it's really for more complicated like real life exchanges. So we're not going to deal with that. Okay, thank you. Which is faster, one order for 10,000 or 10,000 for one? To fill. Which is faster to fill? Anyone want to take a stab at it? So if I'm an HFT guy, do I want to send one order for 10,000 and 10,000 orders for one, so to speak? Well, assuming K is paribus that, you know, it would be the same regardless for me, right? It would just be whether or not I would want to do the first or the second one. All right, which one is it? All right, so I guess for the first one, okay, one order for 10,000 shares. How will that be executed? That will just basically like execute against whatever's existing and then left over, right? And it only has to deal with one. And it sends how many messages? Well, if you trade against N participant, it sends N messages. Well, it sends 2 N messages, right? Now let's look at the 10,000 orders for one share, right? Each one, it will send at least, like, instead of N market participants, you have M shares, M orders. It will always send out like 2 M orders, right? So to speak, if you trade, where you basically have to constantly send in. So you have to you basically saturate your line into the exchange, asking it to fill all these orders, even though they're only for one share, and you saturate the output line for like the trade confirmation, right? So definitely a lot slower on the second one, right, to get your order filled, because it takes time for the OME to get it, and you're saturating your line. You might have other things on your line to that exchange, right? Other algorithms or something, right? So the order that is faster is probably the first one. There are cases where you might want the second one, but we won't go into it. Okay. In this example, the first one is faster because it's only one order to the exchange and the exchange deals with the matching, right? We assume that basically by the time it gets matched and gets to the exchange, it doesn't matter the latency, right? Because the OME already has you at the front of the queue. Whereas the other one, right? If other people cut in front of you, right, then your order will be spread out. Does it make sense? So it's worse for filling if you want to fill at that current best price. All right. In our example, why is a market order bad? Okay, so if we look back here, remember how we had one order that literally wiped through like 2 price levels? If someone put a market order just so happened to be at the same time, right? Because again, these are happening like maybe nanoseconds apart. Maybe same like millisecond range, okay? Or maybe even less, like 20 millisecond range, okay? That gets executed and maybe it trades around this price and then that market order gets filled and you get filled at 96, not 99, that's when you would have placed the order, right? So then like, it's really bad here. You lose out on $3 per share. So that's why market orders would be bad in this example. Okay, does that make sense? Cool. All right, let's go over NASDAQ Alch and Itch. So these are again the NASDAQ's like proprietary binary protocol for the exchange, right? For connecting to the exchange. So the first one I'm going to go over is Ouch. Ouch is the order entry protocol. It's the protocol you use to talk to the exchange and the exchange talks to you privately. That's what Ouch is, okay? So it's primarily for market participants, right? You usually are co-located in the same data center. They're communicated through an exchange's gateway. Gateway is basically your entrance into the exchange, okay? How do you send your trade orders? You send it to the exchange's gateway, which will then get routed to the specific OME in that exchange, but you don't care, right? I mean, you do care somewhat, but what I'm saying is for the trade itself does not care how it gets routed. You might care. Right, so this to the exchange is a proprietary binary protocol. And really, these are the 4 main orders. It supports order entry, which is that you want to execute something. Order modify, which is that you already have an existing order. You say, hey, I want to change this to blah, 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 blah. Order replace, which is I have this order. I want to change it to something else, which is very similar to modify. I'll go over the difference in a second. And then order cancel, which is that I want to get rid of that order, right? So what's the difference between modify and replace? Modify basically, how NASDAQ does it, if I remember correctly, is that it has to be the quantity that you put in, the new quantity has to be less than the current quantity. The reason for that is because modify retains the position on the queue, okay? So you can only make your order smaller, but I don't know if you can, I don't think you can change price level, right? You can change the price. I don't remember, don't quote me. You can just look at the documentation here. But modify doesn't change your queue position. Replace does. Replace changes your queue position. And you basically go back to the end at the price level, right? Well, why is that important? Well, when you get your order filled, right, you have multiple people at your price level, it'll go in order of the people that came in. Does it make sense? And so if you put a replace, you basically forfeit your position in the line. You got to go to the back of the line. Does it make sense? So it could be bad for how you want to fill. And HFT level, they do care about queue position, right? Basically, like some of the quant people basically do models on how to what's the probability that their trade gets executed, right? Given or something about the queue size or whatever, right? They probably have models for that. It's usually communicated over TCP, which has an acknowledged session-based and 3-way handshake, but I won't go over what those are. All you have to know is that TCP has like a connection between me and you, right? And a session, right? And then if you send something, I have to acknowledge it, and then you acknowledge it, or something like that, right? So there's that as well. And it's also TCP is also in order and stuff like that, but we won't go over it. Here's an example of the order entry in Ouch. This is what it looks like. So literally binary, as you can see, it shows offset and len. So it looks like the size of this message in total is around 49 bytes. Okay. The first byte is the type. It's always going to be the value O in ASCII, right? So 1 byte for that. And then order token, blah, blah, blah. So stock is the alpha, right? It's got 8 bytes for the stock symbol. And then the price, it's got 4 bytes for the price. And 4 may not seem like a lot, but 4 bytes is 32 bits. So 2 to the 32 is technically the highest price, but it doesn't even accept that. The highest price on NASDAQ exchange is $199,990 or $90, I want to say, something like that, or maybe 90 cents, 99.90 maybe. So you can't even trade up to 32, right? So put your 4 bytes there just in case. If it has, like, if you go over that amount, it'll reject your order. It'll cancel it. Yep. And then you can see here. So for my exchange project that I'm doing in my class, right? Actually, I'm basically copying this like almost 1 for 1. You just look at this, you make a struct or something for this. If it's in C, right, it's literally just like an array. And you just read that array as an order entry, right? All right, cool. And then let's talk about itch. Itch is the market data feed from NASDAQ. This is only for co-located participants. Co-located means that you're in the same data center as them. So the messages come out from the exchange's ticker plan. So the ticker plan is basically you can think of it as like a machine or a computer whose sole job is to let everyone know what trades are happening at, right? And so this needs to, so for example, every single trade that happens in the system messages, remember, those get sent out on that ticker plan, right? So it's like, 100 shares of Apple traded at $99, 70 shares of Apple traded at $98, right? And so that's what you get with the feed, right? So that's a ticker plan. Again, another proprietary binary protocol, cool. Supports trade messages, ticker information, other system messages. So what does that mean? Trading, like what I said, right? Shares of Apple traded at 98 for 100. Ticker information, which is like, okay, what is Apple? Can I trade Apple? What's the volume of Apple right now? How many like orders for Apple there are, stuff like that, right? So some of that I don't remember. And then other system messages like events, trading halt. So for example, if they say we're going to suspend trading Twitter for today, then they'll send out that system messages to everyone. You'll get it, and that's how you know like Twitter's halted. And if you didn't get that message for some reason, right, then you can just ask it, hey, can I trade Twitter? Otherwise, you'll just get a bunch of cancels from the exchange when you try and trade Twitter, right? So usually communicate with UDP. UDP is a unicast datagram protocol, I think. No, not unicast. User datagram protocol, sorry. And all that means is that there is no acknowledgement of the message. It's just literally, I'm going to throw out messages. If you catch them, good for you. If you don't, well, it sucks to be you, right? And that's because there's so many, it's very like lightweight. So that's why they use it. So they can have high throughput, right? So literally just like they throw out all these trade messages and you're just struggling to catch them. Some people actually can't catch them. So there's like vendors that literally sell machines just to do this stuff. Like Nova Sparks, which was a link I linked last time. They sell order book building for HFT firms. Like literally it's just a rack, you slot it in and on like a server rack and it has order book building for you, right? Because some people can't handle how fast the exchange outputs stuff. And that's a link to the document. Here's what it looks like inside. Here's the NASDAQ itch add order message with no MPID attribution. MPID stands for market participant ID. So if you're Goldman Sachs and you're trading and you don't want other people to know that you're Goldman Sachs who is trading, then this would be a no MPID attribution. And it's basically like somebody placed an order and it didn't get traded or something, right? Then this is what it would show. This is what it would send out, right? Yep. And this is for level 3 market data. We could go over what that means later, but we won't worry too much about it. All right. So real quick, what does exchange look like? Here's some more vocabulary for the exchange. Order matching engine, you guys know what that is. Gateway is basically how you connect to the exchanges. The think as like the gateway, right? Oh, sorry, that's the same word. And basically how you connect to the exchange, okay? The physical point where you connect to the exchange. Trigger plant is something that basically outputs all the trade data, but for everyone, right? Not just between you and me, right? So again, there's two feeds. There's the one where I say your order was traded, and another one where it's the overall market data feed where I say this trade got executed. Does it make sense? So there's two feeds actually. And then ESP is just a fancy name for basically how do you connect different things. And I said an architecture consisting of protocols and infrastructure to provide communication between different infrastructure and computers, right? Sorry, I should not have said infrastructure, but basically it's like how do you connect to each other? That's really what it means. So these are very, very good example of an exchange. That gateway could or depending on how it's done, that gateway could or could not go to that ticker plan. Okay, just so you know. Other than that, this is pretty good. And so basically you have OME in the back. You have all these lines here. So this is what your ESP would look like, right? All where the gateway and the OME, that like sort of bundle lines, that's your ESP. And usually like CME has a bunch of stuff in there for like fairness. So you get like the same latency to different OMEs, among other things, right? Gateways, right? And then you would connect to the gateway with a physical connection to the exchange, right? In that same data center. And then you route it to your HFT side, which has a feed handler and all that stuff, right? So the feed handlers on the HFT side, you connect in that purple square, connect to the gateway. Gateway then sends a message to the correct OME or something like that, right? And then any trades that are executed or add orders get sent to the ticker plan. So every single message that comes in, at least one market message will come out, right? Because either it gets add order, trade that gets executed. I guess for cancel, then it doesn't, right? So if you send an order entry and it gets rejected, then it doesn't actually send out a thing. But if you cancel order, right, it will tell everyone that you cancel order. If you replace your order, it'll tell everyone that you replace. If you modify, assuming everything's correct, right, people will get notified, right? So, yeah, this is really the like high level review of what an exchange looks like. Most of the work is done at an exchange when we're working like for CME or whatever, is done trying to make it fair to get from one gateway to the OME and also for what gateway people use, right? So it's basically to just make as many things fair as possible. And if there's time, I will talk about a article that I have about how gateways were gamed. And so HFT people could actually win over other HFT people. Oh, okay. Well, no, we're going to go straight into the advanced concept. All right. Any questions so far? This is the end of the lecture. Right now, we're going to talk about advanced concepts, which is technically not part of the agenda for the lecture, but I think are cool and that they go with the same topic. So we're going to talk about that. Sorry, I should not call this a lecture. I should call this a talk. All right. Okay. So I probably should have flipped 6, 7, and 11 here. But so we're going to really quickly talk about Q position. So I want you to look at figure 6 here. So for figure 6, this is what basically your BBO and next BBO would look like, right? For your Q, and of course you only care about like the 2. So BS0 is your best bid, AS0 is your best offer, right? And then the bid ask spread, we didn't go over that today, but that's the difference between the best bid and the best offer, okay? Is your spread. And we won't go over the importance right now, but because right today is really about an exchange infrastructure. But maybe in some other time when I talk about market makers. And then so that's what a Q looks like. A Q in this example, what they do is the Q position starts first is at the bottom, and then you get placed on top. So it's like it's a first in, first out, but it looks like a stack, but it's executed as a queue, okay? And you can see, right, you start here, you go down, people get added behind you. Now you have good queue position, right? And so that's what it looks like. All right, let's go to figure 10 real quick. So figure 10 is showing methods of getting to the front of the queue, right? The first one is that you basically think that a price level will get wiped, but you want good queue position. So you will add yourself to the second, so the next best offer. The queue position will get wiped, right? So people may come behind you, right? That's fine. So it looks like there's 8 people behind that person. And you see that price level got wiped there, right? And now you're at the beginning of the other queue with good queue position, right? And also best offer, best bid, right? So you win. And then so here's another one. The second way is that you basically just wait for people to come behind you, right? That's really what that is. So joining, join the best bid. Yeah, you join the best bid, and then by the time it gets to you, right? You see how the ask gets wiped out, right? Then you can trade against the other one that has so you trade against the first one and the new ask, which is better than the old ask, right? So by the time you get there, then you have good queue position and you will get a good spread on that. And then here, this one is like a variation of the other one, which is that if your order is the first one here, what you can do is you can join to the second one, and then if you get basically bought out here, I think you can sell over here, and then you basically make that spread there. So it's basically a variation of the second one, but with actual on the ask side, showing you how to sell. And then, okay, last thing is that figure 11. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's what this entire article was talking about. This article is taken from Barbarians at the Gateway. It's on ACMQ. If you look at the presentation, presenters notes, if you look at the presenters notes, you'll see that I linked the article there. What that's actually saying is that if 2 people share a gateway, what you can do is, you see, client A has access to 2 gateways. They actually pay for that. You just pay for more. I think you can get maybe a maximum of 2 or 3. They don't let you have more. It's really for redundancy purposes. But you can see client A shares the first gateway with client B. So what client A can do if they want to sort of screw with client B is they can flood the first gateway with a bunch of shitty messages, right? So a bunch of maybe cancels, order entry cancel or something, or just bad messages that the gateway needs to parse and then send back out that hey, I rejected your message, right? Whereas client A can then trade actually trade on that second gateway. Whereas client B, since client B only has one connection to the exchange to that gateway, they'll get slowed down, right? Because the gateway is busy trying to parse client A's request, right? So this is one way of gaming the system. And I don't know if this is still a thing. I would not be surprised if this is still a thing, especially in new emerging stock markets that don't have the correct kind of infrastructure. So that's what this entire article was about. Really, for HFT people, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. Of gaming the system. And here we're going to go over another way of gaming the system called canaries. So this is sort of something that has existed a long time that no one in HFT ever talks about, but everyone knows about. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys what it is because, well, we are trying to learn here, right? But no one talks about this. So basically, the idea behind a canary is that you want to get notified how the price will move first. Okay, that's really at the core of what you're trying to do, right? And so the main assumption there is that the feed that you get from the exchange, your private feed, is going to be faster than the market data feed. And this is actually still true on most exchanges. The reason being that if you think about it again, it takes more time to actually have to go send it out and parse a million messages and send it out to people per millisecond than it is, or per millisecond or second, than it is to take the 1,000 messages that it needs to send to you specifically, right? So what happens there is that because it's slower for the market data feed and you have a faster feed if you have it private, you basically do this algorithm. You place a landmine at depth of book. Depth of book means that, remember our order book before? We have a best bid, best ask. You don't place it on best bid, best ask. You place it on either one above or one below the best ask and best bid, respectively, right? And so you basically think of it as like, I think a landmine is a good analogy here. You have a best bid for, let's say $100. You put a landmine on $99, right? What happens is that if that price level gets wiped out, you'll be notified, or if you trade on 99, you'll be notified in advance that your order was executed at $99 before everyone else might know. We're talking about maybe millisecond differences, right? Or even second differences, possibly. I hope not. Then you will, since you know that information, you can then trade on that information, make money on that information. So, right, you'll be notified that you traded, aka you get aggressed on, you get that notification from the exchange, hey, you got traded. And then the market data feed hasn't come out yet. It's still sitting around 99, $100, right? And then you just basically say, okay, I'm gonna send a bunch of like trades to this exchange, right? Basically like level it so that I actually get a good deal on this. And so you can make a bunch of money off this. This is CME actually like struggled with this. Yes, I have a Wall Street article here about CME struggling with this. They said they removed it, but then for some reason, some traders found that it was still a thing like 5 years later. So yeah, NASDAQ doesn't have really this problem because their market data feed is actually faster, but literally almost every other exchange has this problem, right? So yeah, pretty cool. You can look at the PDF there. I posted it on my own drive, so you guys can sort of see. All right, yeah, that's about it for right now for today. Do we have any questions about what I went over, especially these advanced topics? No questions? All right then.